What are the steps that you need to take to decide if you are ready to hire an employee? What is the process that you can use to be great at hiring? And most importantly, what should you avoid and why? In this video, we will go over these and many other great tips and tricks to be the best at hiring. Let's get started. Before we get into the content, I recommend you head over to our Train With Us series once this video is over to learn even more about employee hiring, wages, and effective management. Here we go. Number one, do you have the money? I recommend that you have at least 2 months of projected payroll in the bank before you hire someone. Why? Too often, new business owners forget that they will need to pay their employee before they pay themselves. When the time comes to pay the employee, they now have to choose between paying the bills or the employee. This can be trouble. Being a survivor, you will likely choose yourself over someone else. Now the employee is going unpaid or pay is delayed. Both are major no-nos in any state. If you want to hire someone, make sure that you are in a position of financial stability to do so. If you don't know how to legally onboard someone, then don't hire anybody. What does onboarding mean? It's a process of filling out legal paperwork required by the federal government and the state that you reside in. This process is not something that you have to make up or reinvent. It already exists and can be found by partnering with a reputable payroll service. We're not sponsoring anybody here, but we use ADP, and the systems that they provide allow for all hires to go through an onboarding process online. The system does not allow for deviation from the employee, and it shields you from any compliance-related issues. Of course, you will need to have an employee handbook, but they can help you with that too. Once they're hired, do you know what state-mandated training is required? California law, for example, requires that all employers of 5 or more employees need to provide training to its supervisory and non-supervisory employees on sexual harassment and abusive conduct prevention. What does your state require? You need to know. Do you know what you expect from an employee? What are the standards and what are the rules? You can't make this up as you go all the time. You need an employee handbook to start. There are templates that you can modify from online sources or through partnerships that I discussed earlier. The handbook is a playbook for the employee. What is expected? What is the standard? And how do you communicate? You have to have a rule book. Next is training. What is your training program? Do you have one? Does it consist of you telling a new person to follow the other employee until they figure it out? That's not training. Training is a tailored and structured program for the position that you are hiring for. For example, in our training programs, we have orientation, which would include information about the company history and culture, expectations of the position, review of tools, equipment, and chemical, and finally, a hands-on application. This takes no more than 4 hours to complete, but it is a foundational piece in our screening of a new employee, and frankly, they of us. Yes, they are watching you to see what they can get away with or not. So write out a training outline for each position first, then implement it. Every time, not sometimes. We just put a video out on training, and if you want to learn more, check it out when this video is done. Training will always be occurring, but first day training is imperative. Remember to keep this simple and old school if you want. That's right, pen and paper. Heck, pen to napkin. Great ideas and brainstorming happen best over food. So get to work, write out your training program. Do you know how to interview? Have you ever been interviewed by a bad boss? We all have. You don't know they're a bad boss until a few days in, but if you look back at the interview, it all makes sense. They likely called you on the phone and asked you a few questions. The most important one for them was, how much do you want? They then talked you down on that number and say, you're hired, without even meeting with you in person. They tell you what job site to go to and the time. They never show up to train you, but you get to follow someone around to learn. You feel lost, and 2 days later, when you finally meet that mystery boss, they yell at you for doing bad work. Yep, this is their interview process. Not good and not okay. You need to have a structure for qualifying an applicant. That process needs to be built on mutual respect and clear expectations. Here is a basic process that you can start using today. Review the application and the resume. Does the person have a job history? Is it spotty? Have they been jumping from job to job? Do they have experience in your field? These are all pre-qualifying resume review questions. You will receive hundreds of applications when you post a job, so there has to be a filter to weed them out to a smaller, more manageable bunch. You'll never be able to get a step 2 otherwise. If you do not think they match up with your requirements, then send them a rejection email that is compliant with state and federal regulations and move on to the next step. Call them. Now that you have sorted through the hundreds of applications, you want to conduct a short phone interview. Start by thanking them for their time. Next, confirm that they are clear about the job description and ask them to ask you questions about it. Next, you need to write out your disqualifying questions. These could be about driving, working hours, working solo, or within a team. This is up to you to write out. Be sure that you run these and any questions by an HR professional to ensure that you are not asking discriminatory questions or violating any employment laws. But keep it simple. If they qualify, then go to the next step. Check references. During your phone interview, you asked for references. Always check them. Never miss this step. Would you go out with someone that a friend recommended without asking what they look like or are they nice? I think not. Call and ask their former employer if they are eligible for rehire. If they give you more information, great, but don't expect it. If they check out, then move to the next step. Schedule a face-to-face interview. I like to schedule interviews with candidates for 15 minutes and within the hours that the position would be performed. These interviews are going to be competency-based, and the questions need to be tailored around the job expectations and how their past experiences will prepare them to be successful. Yes, training is provided, so it's not about the work alone. You're looking to hire character first. Hire the best candidate that is trainable. If you like what you're hearing and seeing, make an offer. That's right, be prepared to hire on the spot. Entry-level positions do not include second interviews, typically. Now that we have reviewed a basic hiring process, let's take a look at what not to do. Avoid these at all costs. Number 1, don't hire family. Hiring a family member is a recipe for disaster. Reason? Entitlement, arguments, and Christmas dinner. Just don't do it. But for those of you that are faithful followers, you know that we are a family business, so this may come as a surprise when I say this. It has taken years, countless arguments, written agreements, and daily maturity to be successful working with family. I wouldn't change it now, but I can tell you, if we could do it again, it would have saved a lot of pain and suffering. Do it if you must, but set yourself up for success by setting clear expectations. Number 2, don't hire fast. Hire slow and fire fast is a great motto. Hiring fast will always result in a bad hire that will cost you a lot of money. Number 3, don't pay people under the table. Why? It's against the law. You will get in trouble, you will get fined, and you will regret it. Don't do it. And if a candidate asks if you do, get them out the door as soon as possible. Never hire without being ready first. Hiring is important to the success of your business. Take it seriously and be the best boss that you can be. If you have questions about how to hire, leave a question in the comments below. And remember to like and subscribe. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.